Hi. So now we have come to the final session of our mini summit. So that will be a birds of a feather. I would like to invite all, both the moderator and all the panelists. I will first start with our moderator, Jan Claire. Please. Yeah, you can have. Now, we have the panelist first from Larry Ho from EdgeCore. Do we have Larry here? Yeah, please. Yeah, please. I'll just display the. Yeah. So next is Manodipta Ghosh from Keysight. And Marianne Stoika from Luxoft. We have Taras Chorny. We have Taras here. Because we are kind of early, so I think he's... So next...
he can take the hard questions later.
Later. Next we have Carl. Or no, Sandeep, I think. Yeah, Sandeep.
You can both come. I mean, we have enough space.
Yeah.
Taras can sit somewhere else later.
So Sandeep from Amazon. Why do I had Sandeep here? Okay. Please. And if anybody can catch Taras, I will try to find him. In the meantime, please, Sandeep. Okay, so what we will do, whoever asks any questions, we will give out a power bank to them. Okay, so we are very generous today. So you feel free to ask a question to this panel. Of course, Jan will do all the things. But if we want you also to participate in this BOF session. So if you have any questions, please ask the panel members. Thank you. So I will over to Jan then.
Yeah, thank you so much. So. While I proposed this session, this Birds of a Feather session for this summit, I realized that Birds of a Feather sessions might not be the most common format here. So maybe, can I get a quick show of hands, like who has been at the Birds of a Feather session before? Okay, it's 2 people, that's good. Like for everybody else, so the idea of Birds of a Feather session originates a bit from this idiom, birds of a feather flock together. Meaning that birds that have the same feathers basically tend to fly into the same direction or head into the same direction and form a flock. And the idea of this session here is to see a bit like, who is actually in this room and why are you interested in DENT? Are you interested to work with it? Are you interested to contribute to it? Are you interested to just learn about it? And see if we can find some similarities or if we can find some common ground where we can all work together on. And I guess it really fits well with the theme of this OCP summit, like scaling innovation through collaboration. That's the whole idea here. We don't want to necessarily reinvent the wheel, as said before. We don't want to do like all the, like write our NOS ourselves and then just keep it for ourselves as our own project. There's a lot of different pieces. And at the yesterday's summit, Sonic workshop, for example, we already heard a bit of this like collaboration in other directions, right? We heard that they have been actively working with the FR community to see how those 2 projects can align, because obviously if you run an open source stack for your NOS, you will run open source software on top of that. You will run stuff like FR, you will use stuff like we saw before, ifconfig, IPRoute2, those are all open source tools. And I guess it's very interesting to see who is here from the other communities and who's interested in generally collaborating in one way or the other. We have a bunch of experts here that have all been working for a long time in the DENT project. So everybody on stage can probably answer you a lot of questions. I'm just moderating this whole thing. So is there anybody here that would like to ask anything or has any interest in collaborating anywhere? Yeah, please.
You just mentioned Sonic. Have you ever thought merging with Sonic? Bringing all the features together, having only one NOS?
That's an interesting question. Anybody want to take that? We can start here. And then
Go ahead. All right, so I'll start. I mean, starting with the DENT's positioning, right? It's always talked about being a more of an enterprise edge focus, and Sonic started with a cloud data center. Now, it's a fact that there are a lot more interest now in Sonic and trying to push the community to adopt more enterprise edge features. So in a sense, that creates this kind of questions about, hey, this thing's ever going to converge. If I look at the common points, what's the factors, the pros and cons of converging, right? So the pros is, well, first, DENT is now adopting SAI. To me, that is the most critical piece. You solve the common problem, and having another piece that's out there that is common between it already exists. In other words, that piece. Then the other factor is that. On the Sonic front, there are, I guess, because I participated in the Sonic community actively in the technical steering committee, and so you're going to see that there are still resistance within the Sonic community of how fast do they want to really adopt enterprise features. So yes, but there's always that, right? So without the DENT, and if you're trying to merge it together, I don't think that this resistance is going to go away. So having DENT being out there is another option. So I would look at that as, yeah, this might not be a good idea to merge it. It's too early to try to merge it. Then my final point is, we see a lot of the presentations in this morning's summit. It's focusing on enterprise retail store, right? You look at all the Amazon presentations, it's about the store, it's about the IoT. Well, guess what? Enterprise networking, there's actually a campus side of it, corporate networks, that really is much lighter on these IoT devices and focus on some other aspects. So I guess my point is not all enterprise network is the same. So where is then going? So I'm just going to stop it at this, and you know, it's trying to generate more questions in here and see how we're going to go.
Oh, yeah, Larry covered most of it. You started the birds of a feather question with the opposites attract question. So no, we are actually, to Larry's point, there is a lot of collaboration that can be done, which we shouldn't sort of show resistance towards it. Being an open source community, we started with SAI, with Sonic adopting more enterprise features. There's possibility of collaborating in PoE or any other STP kind of features that are already developed or being developed in DENT or enhanced in DENT, right? So there should always be that collaboration.
Yeah, I think it's also another aspect. Usually the switches were something that on other world, people are thinking that there are specific hardware that is doing networking and you need that specific hardware. Linux is bringing up you are buying a NIC card and you are putting on a PC and you can configure IP and everything. What I think that is really pushing the edge here is the fact that DENT is practically pushing the switches to be a commodity. Practically, switches are NIC cards right now. And if you have a server with 4 NIC cards, or you have a switch with four ports, for you as a IT, it will be the same. You'll configure them the same. They will be considered as servers. And besides of the Sonic is trying to address the data centers. And there are other problems that they need to face. And also DENT can go also to the high density switches if you don't want higher protocols and so on. I think this is...
Just like to add one real quick. I think Jason's presentation, he mentioned that we are not only running DENT on switches, there are other applications of DENT to the IoT devices. So I think that's where DENT will differentiate from Sonic. And like everybody said, I think we are approaching this from the either end of networking. One is from the edge towards the campus and maybe beyond, which is DENT, and from the Sonic, which is coming from the data center outwards. And obviously there are different features, and obviously DENT being a lightweight, I think it's more applicable towards the edge at this point at least.
Okay, thank you a lot. The hard question for
yeah,
Taurus.
so
Welcome. No worries. No worries.
So, oh, sorry, you want to repeat the question to him? So it was like, why don't we merge Sonic and DENT? So do you want to comment on that?
So I guess like an interesting question specifically for you would be in regards to this testing part, right? I mean, I guess like we heard already, like merging those things at this point of time might not necessarily be beneficial for the environment, because it's just like, it might be a lot of work. It's really hard to say it will improve anything or not, because there is a lot of different use cases out there. But there might still be a lot of similarities, especially in terms of testing, right? I mean, both of those network operating systems are configuring switches, different switches, obviously, like different profiles. But as we saw in the workshop, you configure IP addresses, you configure routes, you might configure bridges, you might do certain stuff with PoE and things like that. And I guess like the test cases might be something where we have a lot of similarities, no?
I will split the answer, okay? I will start with merging DENT and Sonic is a good idea on the testing side for the SAI level for sure, where we can define the contract how NOS expects SAI to behave. From the control plane perspective and the NOS perspective, I believe it's different way of consumption of the NOS. The Sonic itself is the great NOS and it fits its needs. However, you can treat it in a way that you can replace your legacy vendor box with Sonic. It has the nice industry standard CLI. It has the nice set of interfaces. And the idea here is, I believe at least, that the goal of Sonic is to become that new disaggregated NOS, but builds on the perception that industry still want to use or consume network in a way that it was consumed before. From that perspective, it's changing philosophy. So you don't have that switch anymore. You have the device within your network that can do some switching or some routing, but it's still the server. If you want to run application there, please do. If you want to run workloads, please do. And it's not about that it's NOS. It's more like OS for edge. So we can merge it. You can run DENT as the container in Sonic. Yes. Do you want this? I don't know. Depends.
Okay, that's another interesting perspective, I guess. Is there more questions from the audience? I mean, we obviously can discuss a bit more the differences or similarities. Yeah, please.
Hello, wait, can you hear? So based on my question, so can you run DENT on in data center like cloud? Can DENT is run in cloud? What happened? It should run in cloud, right? I mean,
could you like step a bit closer to the microphone? It's like really hard to hear you from here.
It's on? Okay. So basically, it's can we run the DENT in a data center or in the cloud, like in Sonic? So what's
Yes.
the limitation?
There are no limitation.
Then why the DENT cannot replace Sonic? I mean,
Why it should? I mean, look, it's not replacement. And maybe it's not that you need to compare head-to-head DENT with Sonic. It's a different way how you build and consume your network. So look, you have Juniper, you have Arista, you have Cisco. Why there is no one? it's different way of doing the same thing. Even in the open source environment, it's different philosophy how you consume it. You have the network device with great NOS, or you have the device that can do networking also.
Yeah, mostly on the edge.
So maybe
Mostly-
Yeah, just as you mentioned, that the DENT is most focused on the edge and enterprise on the retail side, right? But right now it's not focused on the cloud or big data center. So I just wonder, since it can run in data center, so it basically is a full range application, full range support, right? So one question, just because is any limitation in DENT right now? It cannot because widespread, because right now data center, how much looks about is DENT actually using data center? Any big large scale data center? No, right? So why it happens? No.
No, from a design perspective, there is nothing limiting DENT to be run in a data center, right?
But the application wise, why I don't see such application yet?
No, so if you look at the genesis, what Taras was mentioning, Sonic started off by saying data center has this particular requirement. It was designed, thought of, and it started from that space, right? And DENT started with, to his point, there is compute, there is edge, and we don't want way too many devices in like a small enterprise space. We want to consolidate device. So, and then you start thinking, how do we bring networking in and commoditize it, right? So these two products are starting from opposite ends, right? Now, people ask Sonic the same question, why can't it be deployed in enterprise? And then they said, nothing's stopping. We can start implementing PoE in it. We can start implementing STP in it and deploy it in enterprise. Would you want to do that? Sure, that's a business choice, I guess, right? A use case choice. Same thing with DENT. Like if you saw Taras's roadmap presentation earlier, sorry, Tashkin, there is VXLAN coming in, there is MCLAG coming in, there is MPLS coming in, EVPN coming in DENT. So it's like now DENT is approaching the data center space more and more, right? But from a design security, there is nothing stopping DENT to be deployed. We have that I know of, DENT being deployed in edge, in data center, in management switches as in data center. So there is deployments.
Yeah, and also actually the networking in data center is actually pretty simple. It's not that as complicated as in the edge side, aggregation, PE router, right? PE router. So it's not as complicated as PE. PE is more feature oriented, but data center actually is not that much feature over there. Yeah, that's my question to wonder. And also, so is there any limit? How many interface can support it in the DENT? I mean, because DENT is pretty new to me. I don't know about too much about DENT, but I just have questions about because it looks like the interface all managed in the Linux kernel, right, in DENT. Because it's kernel resource, how many interfaces can be supported over there? Because it's considered they're not a virtual, for example, PE router, right? PE router have a tunnel interface, the layer 2 interface, layer 3 interface, the VPN, and or maybe DENT is not use that application. I just wonder because not a virtual interface, a physical interface, and so many interfaces. If this much resource managed by Linux kernel can Linux kernel manage that much interface?
So those are all very interesting points, and you've actually enumerated a set of questions there. Let me try to answer some of them, and I probably forgot some of your questions.
Yeah, thank you.
But back to your original questions.
Maybe it's not use the PE. I just want more questions.
Yeah, I know you talk about P router too. It's interesting. I actually talked to a customer yesterday that's specifically asking. He wants to deploy P routers with Sonic, but that's a different question. But let me first answer your first question about the DENT and Sonic. So one point in my mind that is very important, you got to remember these are community. So what you want is focus. That's the key word. You want to focus on whatever is the mission, is the use case, is the kind of use cases it's trying to solve, right? If you throw in way too many use cases for a single community, then you tend to run the risk of fragmentation because there are different opinions, different priorities, different companies want different things. This is perhaps one of the major reasons. There are other reasons, but it's one of the major reasons in my view why Sonic, there's still a lot of community members in there that want to focus on cloud data center. I'll list some very specific example for you. Sonic, and in this OCP, how many presentations start with the title AI? Lots of it, isn't it? Data center in Sonic is now a very popular area that's being talked at, right? Using Ethernet for high performance and AI ML workload community. Deploying Sonic as the fabrics for Ethernet fabrics for that solution. So this is a direction that Sonic is going. It's towards the high end. These are the 400G, 800G switches that we are now seeing vendors exhibiting on the floor right now. That is one direction. It's pulling Sonic towards that direction. Now think about enterprise. Think about retail store. What's difference in there? One first thing that comes to my mind is security. You don't have a completely blocked in data center where everything, you don't have to worry about a burger shop where that the switch got robbed and come in and take away the disk. What happened to the things inside? Those never happened. It's not a worry inside a data center. Well, on the enterprise side, you do have to worry about it, right? And so the security requirement is far more on the networking devices and the software. So that needs to be focused, a focused community to start focusing on those development and those features. So if we try to merge them together, can you imagine a community that's trying to pull in those two directions, the high end versus security? Just think about that. It's to me, that is not a practical way to run community.
Yeah, to answer your question about features, yes. So there is ability for you to do increased number of ports. We don't virtualize ports, so it's not like consuming more resources in the kernel or anything. There is also features for tunneling, VPN, IPsec, and all those features do exist.
Okay, thank you so much. So maybe just to quickly wrap this up and also like go a bit into another perspective as well. We've been talking a lot about like what is the use case, right? And this is obviously very important, and you can differentiate network operating systems by the use case. Another big thing, and this is also going a bit more in the direction of collaboration and things alike, is the architecture. So the architecture of both of those operating systems are very, very different. And probably the most important thing to think about, and we've heard that in the previous talks, is like the state machine of this DENT is really the Linux kernel in the end. We have the Linux kernel, and we think that the Linux kernel is the one that should hold all of the network state, and we don't want to reinvent that in any way. Obviously, it comes with a lot of limitations, and we have seen that, like there is no PoE, or there was no PoE support, and we're working on that. And Sonic comes from a very different angle, right? So they have a database as their state machine, basically, which like kind of drops a lot of these limitations, which is also an interesting idea. There is no final judgment or anything on that yet. What is a good way to approach this thing? And it might be worth to continue exploring both of those architectures to see what is a good state machine for a switch, because Linux was not developed to be a switch operating system. That's why there's a lot of stuff in there, especially when you think about telco use cases or things alike that are not necessarily within the scope of the default Linux operating system as we see it right now. But maybe they will be, maybe not. Let's see. So it's probably worth exploring a bit more, and not necessarily the time already to see like, let's drop the one idea and let's just all stick with one. Also going to the point that like merging at an early stage might be a bit difficult. But we have more questions here.
Hello. I was chatting with Manodipto a little bit earlier, and I thought I'd maybe just ask the panel, does DENT have support for P4 currently, or is it envisioned? That's my first question. Second related question would be, in terms of an implementation, would a reasonable implementation of that be to think of using the switch abstraction layer to interact with like a Tofino version 1 or version 2? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So yes, again, to where we are headed, we are also thinking of building more compute products. Like we've been saying, Linux is not for a switch, it's for a server and compute. So to that point, we're investigating having P4s or DPUs and increasing the ability of doing more secure features, doing any compute like edge compute that we do in many of the analysis for AI, ML, etc. Giving that engine. And going back to Larry's point, we need to build more tools and applications in the user space that take advantage of a P4 and any DPUs that we want to integrate in there. And absolutely, yes, any abstraction layer that we build keeps that in mind. The design doesn't block us from going there. Some of us are actively investigating that path, but it's not officially in the roadmap yet. I'm thinking somewhere in end of 2024 or early 2025, we'll officially put that in the roadmap.
But you're also obviously invited to like define that roadmap with us. So that's part of the idea here, right? So if you have ideas here, or if you have a specific case that you would want to tackle, please join one of the meetings or drop us an email, open an issue, something like that. So I think there's a lot of directions that are very interesting about this specific questions. So yeah, if you're interested, please.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and one more thing. Before that, Tofino, you mentioned 1 and 2, the SAI implemented. So technically, you can start trying DENT on the Tofino 1 or Tofino 2 platforms. I believe that
As early as January.
Yeah, as early as January there will be the full. There is experimental. Yeah, last week and the TSC. So there is experimental driver allows you to try to play, see how it fits.
And where would you find that experimental driver?
It's under the TSC list somewhere, and
I'll be speaking about it tomorrow as well.
yeah, Sandeep will have the link tomorrow on his talk.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have more questions, please.
A few more, I guess. This is focused towards the enterprise, as a product, and thank you for doing this. This is a great initiative. So there are obviously a lot of vendors already out there that are, have captured significant amount of the market share, and so in order and within the enterprise, there are different levels of skill sets compared to, let's say, in the data center. So in order to make this appealing to the enterprise, are you creating some sort of abstraction layer, some sort of orchestration, or are you relegating that to the vendors like, let's say, Amazon or somebody else does that orchestration part to make it easily consumable?
I can take that out.
Yep. I think here it's one of the questions is, do we want that? It's we want to build a network operating system, or we want to build a full-fledged network operating system, or we want to have some specific applications that we are testing. I think right now, in my mind, the advantages is that you have a server with NIC cards. You can put any orchestration that you put on a server there. You can run Kubernetes on it if you want. You can deploy application on top of it, but you have the entire flexibility of having a server with NIC cards versus Sonic that practically it has an ecosystem that you need to respect. It will be much difficult to change it to run things on top of it. It's possible, yeah, you can run things, but on top of a server, you run VMs. You can assign ports that are really physical ports if you want. Yeah, some of the ASICs are having direct interfaces to the CPU. Some Broadcom like this, you have clients directly connected to the server inside of the server.
Understood.
Yes.
Understood. That's fine. So, so you're expecting a certain level of technical skill set in order to really, really adopt. In other words, that's fine. That's a good answer. Is this all of this getting modeled in Yang? Are you guys trying to do that? Or I've missed a few sessions earlier, but I don't know if you guys are already doing that.
Yeah. So adding to his, so to your point, no, we don't have an actual system integrator doing any of that orchestration work. People who are adopting DENT right now, DENT is new. It's not like 15, 20 years of growth, right? So to earlier point, we are still in the phase where we are trying to add features, make it more robust, make it more secure from a fundamental operating system perspective. We envision having more system integrators on the participate in this and then build software orchestration, management, and all of that. That's a gap right now, so that's something we should definitely build. We have, I think, yeah, Linux already has some Yang and other northbound manageability options, GNMI, etc. And Chetan and others earlier mentioned how we are already using it in our test infrastructure, right? And I think we have it in our roadmap for 2024 to have more telemetry and more GNMI features. So hopefully that addresses some of your question, but there is no end-to-end product saying, take this OS, power it on, then run this one command, and then it'll run your network. No, we don't have that today. Yeah.
So I'll add on to this, if I may, to that question. Interesting question. So the roadmap, right? What you need from the NOS perspective is the northbound GNMI, interface, and that part is answered. Beyond that, I am a firm believer of if you build it, it will come. So the idea is there are a lot of vendors, controller, NMS vendors out there that are licking their chops and wanting to have DENT being successful, mature. Then they will jump in. They want to see deployment. They want to see that this thing is being adopted. And they have everything built. It's running on multiple network operating systems, even including the legacy. Because that's the transformation, right? The transition. You're never going to flip the switch and deploy everything brand new unless it's a greenfield. How do you address brownfield? So you need those kind of matured controllers, company applications to come in and support DENT from underneath. To do that, we need to provide the plumbing. We need to provide the GNMI and all the telemetry and all those features out there at the lower level in order to connect the dots. And once you have it, and once you see adoptions, those will come.
And maybe to quickly also add on that, like as stated earlier, there's like this whole thing is like written with the idea of having Linux as the operating system, right? So if you think about like having Linux or orchestrating a Linux server, you have interfaces, right? You don't necessarily have all of the interfaces that you would by default have for a switch, like to control it externally. But there has been a lot of solutions out there, and they have been developed over the last 10 years when we went to this whole cloud, whatever world, to orchestrate large amounts of Linux systems and configure large amounts of Linux systems. And if you think about configuring the switch in the same way, how you configure a server, you can apply the same ideas, right? You can go exactly into the same direction. So if you have been using Ansible, for example, as like I guess one of the major tools to orchestrate large amounts of servers, you can do the same thing with a switch now. You just like use Ansible and then you basically configure your switch in the same way. Or if you want to have graphical interfaces, maybe try picking something from Canonical or whatever. Network Manager as a graphical interface, see how that goes. So there is, I guess, a lot of options out there if you consider Linux and the netling whatnot as the like state machine there, as the bus. We just have to figure out what is a good thing. So maybe, may I ask like from which direction you're coming, from like why you're interested in that specific part?
No, because we have to ultimately have it be adopted. Somebody has to use it for it to be successful. And in order for it to be successful, the community that is adopting it, meaning the user community, you have to make it easy enough for them to deploy it. The enterprise community is very fragmented, and the technical skill set is very distinct and different compared to, let's say, the cloud or the data center. So the assumption that they would know how to do it with Ansible or other tools available, that's a big assumption.
Absolutely, and my question was not so much in this like general direction as more like it's very hard to figure out what is the best way, right? So what we really need is like a bit of input from people that would like to use it. Like, how would you like to use it? What would be like your preferred way to use it? Do you have like a use case? Do you have like a customer or project or something that would like to use that and like would like to use this specific method to orchestrate it or to address it or something like that?
Legacy vendors have done or doing. So meaning being able to adopt their devices, their tools, their offerings and solutions. So if you look at the vendors currently, they talk about a consistent user experience from the campus to the data center to the cloud, utilizing a simple single dashboard to manage and configure their entire infrastructure. So that's where I'm coming from. Is there some level of, because in order for the enterprises, for the retail, shops to adopt something like DENT, which I think is a fabulous operating system, fabulous initiative, but you have to make it something that is easy to consume. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you a lot. We have more questions here.
Yeah, hello. On the same lines as the two previous questions, is SDN support being considered for DENT targets?
I did not get the last part, sorry. It was...
Is SDN support being considered for DENT targets, OpenFlow and so on?
SDN support. Is SDN support being considered?
Yeah.
Anybody want to take that?
It's not in the roadmap.
Okay.
There are no technical challenges to have it. If community will drive to the way that we need SDN, I believe we can include it. I know it's vague, but that's what it is.
What is SDN? I mean, I know that like software-defined networking or whatever, but like what is it?
The way I'm thinking of it is, since DENT exposes a Linux interface, so you can have something like OVS.
Could you like step a bit closer to the mic?
I'm
It's
sorry.
like
Is
really
this
hard
better?
to hear you.
Oh. Yeah, is this better? Yeah. I mean, this is just, I don't know if this is feasible, but since DENT exposes, it's based on Linux, I was thinking if you could incorporate OVS or those kind of packages into your build, then at least you can expose the port as a NIC, and then but then the question is, how do you get line rate performance? But that will depend on SDK support. So I don't know how all of that works.
So I would say, as of today, way of consumption of DENT does not include SDN as the way of configuration. Yeah, or as the OVS, you can definitely, it's Linux, you can have OVS, but the idea is, don't get me wrong, maybe Larry or Sandeep can get it more clear, but we are trying to aggregate more functions to the device, not disaggregate and put it in external controller. And it's not that you cannot do that. It's just there was no feasible requests coming to DENT. Let's try to do it. And we are open to it. We are definitely open. Let's see how we can make it and how we can, how this can help us to spread DENT adoption.
One thing about this is the possibility of doing all of this is something that should excite all of us, right? The fact that the OS is there, the initiative is nice. Now we need adoption and orchestration. That's great. It's not rigid that way, right? And to your point, can we do a controller-based configuration and orchestration? Yes, we could, right? So I think the opportunity is wide. If with all of your use cases and ideas, if you want to come collaborate with us, I think that's the call to action here, right? If you have that idea, there is the possibility, we have the fundamentals, let's go build something together, right?
Thank you so much. I mean, I guess like also to iterate a bit over this question of OVS, because it's a very interesting part to run applications like OVS on your switch. I guess the biggest challenge there is to figure out. That's the same thing that like at most of the vendors in the marketplace we're talking about, like building these DPU things basically. Like, where do you process which part of the packet? Where do you look at which parts? Like, because if you look at the switch and if you see this wonderful thing that looks like a Linux server, you still need to keep in your mind that there is an ASIC that can forward packets, and then there is a small computer on top. It might be a bit bigger and it might look like a Linux system. But what you really don't want to do is like pull all your packets to that small computer and then let the CPU there process everything and then send it back down, because that will be slow, right? We want to like only use that to visualize the whole thing and like use it as a controller. And we need to figure out how much information do we need to pull up, basically. And for OVS, that might be a very interesting thing to look at. How can we integrate that in there? So I really appreciate that question. So if you want to like keep working on that or like join one of the meetings, drop us an email, something like that, it would be very interesting. We have more questions, please.
So I have a DENT newbie question in terms of pieces of infrastructure to do kind of state synchronization, high availability type of operations. I mean, not looking at, the real small deployments, but say medium-sized campus deployments with ability to do all of these. What type of infrastructure exists today, and where is it going? Is it part of the roadmap? Maybe you want to shed some.
Can you repeat the last part? You were not audible.
No, I meant what type of infrastructure exists today, and where is that headed in your in your roadmap? Basically.
Yeah, the security and high availability features are being developed. Larry addressed the security question from a high availability perspective. Earlier in the roadmap, we showed about having ability to upgrade using 2 separate boot partitions, etc. And the whole point of making it highly available is right now pushed towards the network design side of things rather than device itself doing a bunch of it. But I think that's something that we should actively work on putting in the roadmap, providing more high availability from a device perspective. Right now we are addressing more fundamental high availability through upgrades, disk corruption, U-boot partition corruption, etc. So we are addressing in that space right now. I think soon we should come more towards like application layer and advanced features.
Sure, thank you.
Thank you so much. Do we have more questions from anybody in the audience?
Yeah. So again, this is from the booth, people who have visited. I think Sandeep did mention about the DPUs thing. So there's from the OPI community thing. So in these DPUs, I think, can we run DENT because of the small footprint? Do you see that as a use case going ahead?
No, yeah, absolutely. I was talking to a bunch of folks here. For one reason or another, I cannot stop by the OPI booth. I always go near it and then get pulled away. Absolutely, I plan to spend a couple of hours at least talking to folks about it. In my mind, and you guys can comment more, I think that's absolutely the direction we should head in the next 2-3 years and adopt it more.
That's another project that I manage, so please reach out to me.
Yeah, I'll add on to this. There was an earlier questions about P4.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a really good use case on those DPUs.
Okay, so this is a comment from, so they saw the video of Amazon's Just Walk Out technology and they're very impressed thing. So then they could appreciate where DENT has been used. Now the comment was, there isn't enough other stories, that other user stories from the DENT, what is it really used for? So from your perspective, do you see such kind of stories being put out in public? It could be a demo or a video kind of a thing that can help understand people what DENT is about. So for them, they say, that's the only story you are showing us. Are there any other stories? So what do you see, what do you want to see in the DENT, such kind of stories, apart from Amazon story?
So, like conceptual-wise, at least what we were trying to do with within our company is we are replacing ONL with DENT, if I can say so. So there was a lot of ONL deployments, which is now nearly dying. And the idea is to utilize the DENT-OS there instead of. This is the one thing. Unfortunately, I cannot say the names now, but this is what's happening. And what also we are trying to promote is access level networks run by DENT, because there is no other open source alternative that can run on those kind of devices as of now.
So that could be a good story then.
Just adding to that question, right? So, like Mircea in his talk mentioned, like we have an open lab, right? So we can do more POCs if anybody wants to build that story with us. So they're welcome to come and try stuff on the actual lab, build a real use case, and we are happy to go out and talk about it. Obviously, it won't be a production deployment, but at least you can try things out in the lab before you go ahead and make your mind up.
Okay, I think that's a good point to other members of the DENT. If you want to create a story, come to Keysight. Okay. The last thing is on what they can expect from DENT in 2024, apart from the features roadmap kind of a thing. At a very more higher level, how do you see in DENT in 2024?
We said before you'll get the hard questions. So.
No, roadmap is roadmap. I believe the important part to be successful is to get the traction and to get the understanding. So we need to synchronize with the market and basically feed the market needs. It's not about having the best solution, best technology. I mean, we can dream about this, but in reality, it's not. So we need to understand what challenges are currently, I mean, I believe the enterprise edge for the retail, we've solved it. Let's be clear. I believe Jason was talking about this, Sean was talking about that it's there, it works, it's okay for Amazon. I believe means it might be okay for all other cases because requirements from Amazon, I can imagine them. The idea here is if we want to spread this, we need to listen to the market, we need to listen to our users, and I believe in nearest future we would see more and more interactions with the users, they shaping our roadmap and how we will, what we will have in the next few years, let's say.
Okay, good. So listening more to end users then, yeah.
There's also another thing that we have not talked about too much yet, but maybe that's an interesting point, especially for 2024. I think like somebody mentioned ONL being already almost dead. It's dead, really. I mean, like they're like nah. So it has been having this like archived label for quite some time now, and we've been thinking about that for also quite some time now, right? So there is like the obvious issue: if you build a network operating system, you need obviously some kind of machinery to build the system itself, and on the other hand, you need platform drivers. So you need drivers that are very specific to the switches that you want to control, for the LEDs, for the PSUs, for the basically for most of the stuff in there, fans, whatnot. And those have been living for quite some time in ONL. And that's also the only reason why there's still stuff being merged in ONL, because there's platform vendors now coming up with new platforms or changed code that want to merge those things in ONL, because that's the place where we drop platform drivers right now. And I think one of the interesting challenges for 2024, where we would definitely appreciate input and help, is to replace ONL with something else. So there have been a lot of discussions about that. I think one of the slides that we saw mentioned Yocto as the built machinery, but that still leaves a lot of open issues, I guess. Is there any ideas how we tackle this thing of like platform drivers? Where do we put them?
Yeah, I think, as I said, if we are thinking about a legacy switch, yeah, that legacy switch, it has an ASIC. On top of the ASIC, you have a PCI, usually a PCI interface that is going to a host CPU. On that host CPU, you'll have kernel drivers that are managed by a user space SDK. And on top of that, you are building a network operating system that can be a legacy one like Cisco, Arista, any others, or you can have Sonic that is running there, and it's trying to mimic what the legacy market is doing. Here, the DENT is practically exposing the user space SDK as Linux interfaces directly. It's a server, And you have some, on the servers, you have also some components like fans, PSUs are also on the server side. Thermals are also problems on the server side. What we have here that is common to these switches are usually pluggables like optics ones, and the CPLDs that are managing some components like PHYs, taking out of reset PHYs, ASICs, and so on. And the question here is like, we are part of Linux Foundation. Everything is here is talking about Linux network stack, and all the interfaces are on the Linux network stack. I think the best thing on this is that we can think about these devices as servers. They have kernel modules that are managing components, and how we can make these kernel components to be abstract and use standard Linux drivers. And for those ones that are not abstracts, we have ONL that build that very good interfaces, ONLP. And on Sonic, we have another way to do it. And the question here is how we can, here is the part that it would be very nice if we can make it commonly, how we can make the platform drivers to be common and use them both in Sonic and on ours, and make them standard and use one thing, not build things 2 times. And here is coming the ONL. ONL is dead. We have Debian 9, yeah, and probably we want to go to Linux 5.15, and I think Yocto is creating that interface, the building environment for everything. Yeah, you are building Linux, you are building the drivers, and let's hope that they will be common between us, and you are building the switch manager with the SAI, and all our modules. Think about you are putting on Yocto that is cross-compiling. There are recipes. You can take recipes out of it, and you can even build your own OS there. You can have a Debian, you can have a Ubuntu, let's say. Take the switch manager that is SAI. You can take it out, and it should be compiling. You'll have a problem with libSci, but in theory, you can take it. And the kernel drivers there. And like this, you are building some abstract component that they will be common, and let's hope that also others will adapt.
No, the whole ONL versus not, that I still remember, it came to blows, right? So some people in the room, some people not. So it's probably lived longer than we anticipated it to. It got us there faster. That was one of the only reasons why we took it. We keep saying it's a server, but there is ONL in it. So that's sort of like it got us there. It's time for it to finally be taken out of life support. We are actively doing Yocto-based systems to take care of the ONL build system part of it. Last evening, we had a long discussion about how to transition from ONLP to new ones and how to keep supporting it in the short term. So there's active discussion happening within the community. If anybody has ideas, you want to collaborate and say, how do we build this platform driver outside of anything core, right, and make it more Linuxy, we should actively work on it, yeah.
Yeah, that's a very important thing. So we have, I think Tara's created an issue on GitHub to start the discussion a bit about the Yocto part. So if anybody wants to give some input there, like how should we move things? Where should we move things? Because ONL is like a big blob of things right now, and we need to look into a lot of different parts there. It will be a lot of work. That's not something that we can like just hack in 1 or 2 months. And it's probably worth thinking a bit about before, where do we put stuff? There's vendor drivers, so we definitely need support from vendors to see like, do you want to support your own drivers that you wrote? Do you like want to like host them somewhere? How do you want to ship them, basically, right? So there's a lot of open questions where we definitely need input. And if anybody has input, please, like whatever way you find, like on the GitHub issue, that's a great place. Join the TSC, like just like let's discuss there. Drop any of us an email. But it would be important to get some feedback because it's a pretty big topic, and it will probably address not only stuff within DENT, but a lot more things, right? Because Sonic, on the other hand, has more or less the same issues. They've solved it in a different way, or they've tackled it in a different way. But it's still the same thing. We need a baseline operating system, and we need drivers to control the LEDs, to control the fans and all that stuff. And we need to get away from what ONL was back in the days, because it's going to be archived at one point, I guess. I don't know if they're actually going to archive it ever. It's marked for archival for a time. So we have like 2 minutes left. So if there is one important question.
This is the operating system. It's just a tool in the end. Do you plan as a community to open source the store or a store recipe and documentation for it, and saying if you have this Surface store, you need to buy this device, 3 cameras, 2 cashier, 2 whatever. And if this is a use case, are you going to provide recipes for me to open a, I don't know, pop and shop, whatever store?
So that's the question towards Amazon,
chain.
I guess, right? The
Mircea
just
wants
walk
to
out.
open a store.
No, yeah, the question comes very close to what the gentleman asked earlier. So we need system integrators, right? Am I going to tell you how we did it? Probably not. But what I can say is ours was a specific use case, right? Let's not limit to that, right? These devices can go in a pizza shop. It can go in mom and pop shops. Their use cases are different, right? I think we need that middle system integrator to his point, do the market analysis. What are the customers asking for? Right? And then take what we have as a product which has all the features necessary to run a camera, run their security camera, run their Wi-Fi points, run their whatever, and then do the integration for them, right? Is that going to be on our roadmap? Probably not. I don't know, Larry, are you thinking of having any such solution out of any of the, you said build the technology, the solution will come. So are you in your mind, or are you thinking any of the other members working on that?
Well, I speak for myself only. Okay, all right, I'll leave the mark here. To me, if Amazon doesn't open its secret sauce on the retail store, as a community member of DENT, I'm going to try to drive DENT towards the campus network. There is a lot of overlap, okay? It can be. It's all about use case. My earlier comment about focus, right? We don't want to be dragged, but there's only limited resource, limited people participating. So you want to steer the focus. So is Amazon going to open up his all these applications sitting on top? I wouldn't hold my breath on it. So, but I'm thinking about what's the alternative. My alternative, this is Larry speaking, will be trying to steer DENT towards other problems that enterprise network, the common generic enterprise network needs, and trying to steer towards that way. That's my answer.
Yeah, I think we're out of time now. Thank you so much for the discussion here. So if there's more things that you want to discuss, like other use cases that you envision or other questions that you have, I think all of us will be around for the rest of the day. So just like approach us. We'll be at the DENT booth. There's like a small place there. You'll recognize Tara's, Tara standing there, or Tuscan standing there. And I think like Shrida will take it off for the final comments, right?
Thanks a lot to the moderator and to the panelists. Thank you so much. Before I tell the closure thing, please grab T-shirts on your way out. We have the T-shirts there, nicely sorted out by the sizes. There are too many extra small, I think. No. Okay, so we are to the closure. Thanks a lot. Thanks for participating. It was an excellent session. Please feel free to drop by the our booth. It's C38. We'll be there. Most of our members will also be there. We'll be happy to answer those questions. This is our DENT website, dent.dev, very simple. Please, you can reach out to that website. You'll find all the information there, how to participate, how to join our meetings, when are these meetings, and everything. So thanks again. Looking forward to see you all again. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.